Welcome back to How to Cake It. I'm Yolanda, and this week I'm caking a TeePee. This is the only TeePee I'll get into.
Yeah.
One made out of cake. That's indoors.
I really don't like camping either.
Yes!
Finally, yes.
Oh, look at Cody. Look at him. Shaking his head. To create this TeePee, I made 20 pounds of my ultimate vanilla batter. I dyed some of it yellow, some of it orange, and some of it green. My 10 cakes are already leveled to the same height. The caramelization has been removed from the bottom, and they're all laid out and ready for simple syrup. If you want the lowdown on how I dyed my batter and how I divided it and baked it, click here. While the simple syrup soaks into all those layers, I'm going to take the time to color some of my Italian meringue buttercream yellow. I want it to match the yellow layers. What do you like about camping?
Yes, can you
Don't even.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
So first off, the sense of adventure is just wild, because if I'm out canoeing and like, where's the wood spot, where's the safe spot to be by the lakes, and it also takes me back to a more primitive time to figure out a way to start a fire.
Or you can go to a hotel.
You took the words out of my mouth. You can get a hotel room. I've got everything ready, and it's time to fill and stack this cake. I'm partially filling the cake with ganache and partially with my yellow buttercream. The first thing I want to do is sandwich together all of my yellow layers of cake that are the same size with my yellow Italian meringue buttercream. And then I just remove the excess from the sides. And I repeat this with my other two sizes of yellow layered cakes. And now I need to fill my orange and green layers of cake, which I'm going to sandwich together with chocolate ganache. So I'm going to lay down a green layer of cake, chocolate ganache, and then an orange layer on top, and remove the excess from the sides. Now I could have built this cake from the bottom up, but it's warm. I know I'm Canadian and it's a bit warm, and I was worried that if I did it all as one, that ganache would just be like wibbly wobbly. So this is why I'm choosing to sandwich them in twos for now and chill all 5 of my, well, they're not mini, but short cakes at the moment. Now that my cakes are chilled and the filling is firm, I'm going to build them all up as one cake. So I start with my 12-inch square yellow cakes. I spread on a layer of ganache, and then on top I place my 10-inch green and orange cake. Then I spread another layer of ganache, and on top I place my 8-inch yellow cake. Then I spread another layer of ganache, and on top I put my 6-inch green and orange, and a final layer of ganache and my 4-inch yellow cake. Ta-da! And now I really need to chill it as a whole. Look at how I wrote it out. I literally wrote out what I did.
Can I see?
They're messy. Don't show the VIPs my notes.
You wouldn't want to show.
That's
I have
messy to you?
That's extremely messy. That's me scribbling. I don't like it.
Orhan, can you put that in front of the camera?
No, we are not showing them. This is, no. It's time to carve diagonally from the center of the top cake down to the edge of the bottom cake. And I need this to be straight. So what I like to do is mark the center of the top cake, and then, surprise, use a ruler and hold it from that top mark down to the bottom edge, and then just use the tip of a knife to make that mark into the cakes. And then I use a serrated knife to cut along that line I make and cut all the way down. I'm gonna cut like 2 layers at a time. It seems easy, it seems like one big line, but if you make a mistake, it's hard to patch up. So I just cut through the 4-inch layers, and then the 6-inch layers, and then the 8-inch layers. And as I work my way down, I need to switch to a bigger serrated knife. Once one side is cut, I cut the other side in the same way. And then I turn my cake and use my ruler once again to make those same lines, those same guide lines, so I can cut the final 2 sides. And now I have a wonderful yellow, orange, and green. Well, it's like a pyramid right now. It's like a cake pyramid.
You're so much better than nature at creating straight lines.
There aren't a lot of straight lines in nature.
No, nature's pretty bad at straight
That's
lines.
probably what my problem is, Cody. Yeah, that must be what it is.
Probably.
That must be what it is. I figured it out. I feel better now. Now it's time to crumb coat and chill this cake, and for this I'm going to use some more of my yellow Italian meringue buttercream. All the tools you need for a good crumb coat and chill are in my deluxe bundle, and you can get it right here. Once my crumb coat is chilled, I'm going to ice this cake again in yellow Italian meringue buttercream and chill it once again. Guys, we can all be friends again. We can go to Camp Cake. Summer edition is coming up. It's August 12th, 11th and 12th, and it's 2 days with something special on each day. You can sign up for one day or both, and I'll spend the entire day with you showing you how to bake incredible treats and answering all of your questions. If you want to know what we're making this year, click the I to find out. You can also check out the link in the description below. While you're there, sign up to be on our email list and we will email you as soon as the registration opens so you can get early bird pricing. It's July 3rd.
When is it?
July 3rd. Camp Cake is a live stream baking event like no other, and I can't wait to bake with you indoors. Who needs fire when you have an oven? Who needs a cooler when you have a fridge?
Did you just make that up?
I did, it's amazing.
That was perfect.
It was very good, yo.
While my cake is chilling, I'm going to roll out a bit of black fondant, nice and thin, and I'm going to use this to create the opening on the TeePee. This TeePee is full of cake, but I want to make it look like you could sleep inside if you were one of those types of people. I remove my cake from the fridge and I lay the black piece of fondant carefully up along one side and smooth it down. And then to trim the black fondant, I lay a ruler along one side of the triangle, line it up, and use my serrated knife and cut away the excess, and then I do the same on the other side. So now there's a nice black triangle on the front of my pyramid. I know it's a teepee, but right now it looks like a pyramid.
Or like I went camping like just near the tail end of winter.
Winter camping.
Let's just let it finish.
Okay.
No,
Okay, I'm with you. Just go on.
but you're talking about
I didn't even contemplate winter camping. It's time to move on and cover this cake on all four sides with yellow fondant. So piece by piece, I'm rolling out yellow fondant, tall enough and wide enough to fit over one side of my cake. And then I am laying it on, smoothing it with a fondant smoother. If there's a lot of excess on the sides, just sort of roughly cut it away because any extra weight pulls the fondant off your cake. And then I chill it. The reason I chill it is when it's chilled, it's easier to trim the fondant nice and straight. So now that the fondant is chilled, I remove the cake. I trim the excess fondant from the bottom of the cake, and then I use my sharp paring knife. And what I want to do is, if this is the cake and this is the blade, I want the blade to be flat up against the cake.
You don't have to like we actually see you do it.
Oh, you're right, footage, sorry. So for the back, I do it the exact same way I did the sides, roll out the fondant, smooth it on, roughly cut away the excess, and then chill it and trim it. Are you guys loving the new cakes over on Step by Step as much as I am? This week, Jody Kwan made an adorable Winnie the Pooh Ufufi cake that you have got to check out. Click here to watch the video and give her a big warm welcome to the family. You can also check out the link in the description below. For the front, this is where the TeePee opens. So what I want to do is roll out my fondant, then cut it in half and lay it on in two halves with a seam going down the middle of the teepee. My thought was that I'd be able to use a dowel and roll up that excess fondant away from the opening, the same way that a teepee supposedly opens. But when I did it, I found this really hard to do because the longer the fondant is out, the drier it gets, and the longer it takes me to roll it up, it begins cracking. So I attempted this for a while and then decided it was too hard, it wasn't gonna be very even. So instead, I just used a ruler and I trimmed the fondant on both sides to create an opening. And what I'll do is create that rolled up fondant and add it later. Next week, we're gearing up for Independence Day, so I'm making giant chicken and waffles. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. It's now time to add dowels to the four corners of this cake. I want my dowels to be a little taller than my cake so I can get that like crisscrossing effect at the top. I'm going to need some fondant to help me adhere these dowels to my cake. So I'm rolling out a big sheet of fondant, nice and thin, and I'm gonna cut it into 4 equal panels. I want these panels to be all as tall as my cake or a little bit taller, and I want them to be about 3 inches wide. Once I have my panels and my dowels, I brush clear piping gel along both sides of the corner of each cake. Along both sides of each corner on the cake. Yes, that's what I did. Then I line a dowel up right from the bottom and going over the top. And then I pick up one of my panels of fondant and drape it over. And I carefully want to smooth it over the dowel. It helps to use your fingertips to smooth it, but I also like using a soft, dry brush.
You're breaking new ground on how to cake it. Dowels on the outside.
Dowels on the outside.
Yeah.
And now I need to trim these fondant panels. So you know what I'm going to use to measure them? Another dowel! I lay a dowel along one side, up the side of the cake, along one side of the dowel that's under the fondant, and then I use the tip of my sharp knife to just cut along there, and then I repeat on the other side. So the first thing I did was add 2 dowels on opposite corners, trim, and then the other 2 dowels on the other 2 opposite corners and trim. If you're like me and your idea of camping is inside a cake teepee, share this video. Share with people that there doesn't have to be bugs in camping.
That's very true.
I've taken the bugs out of camping and I've added cake. Not only did I trim the fondant on either side of the dowel, but at the bottom, I actually want to trim off about 1 inch of fondant to expose the dowel. Because I feel like, wouldn't those dowels go like into the ground? Cody, do they go into the ground?
Of course.
Yeah, otherwise it would fall over. See, I know some things. You know what never falls over? Hotels. Anyway, I wanted to add a pattern to this teepee cake. I really like chevron, and I've wanted to use it on a cake, on how to cake it, and I thought the teepee was the perfect cake. So I rolled out green, orange, and brown, and then I cut each color into different size strips. The green was the thickest strip, and then I cut the orange a little bit thinner, and then I actually used a strip cutter to cut the brown fondant to the thinnest strip. So now I'm cutting the strips into equal lengths with slanted edges. And the key is that I need to make half of them with slanted edges this way and the other half with slanted edges this way in each color. So I happen to have a chevron stencil. I totally forgot about this stencil. I opened a drawer, I have the stencil. You know who brought it here? Christine from Simply Nail Logical. So I had the stencil, so what I did is I lined it up on my strips and figured out the angle, and then I used a ruler and a sharp knife to cut half my strips in one diagonal direction, flip the stencil to the other side, ruler and knife to cut the other half of the strips in the opposite direction. And now I can start to line up this pattern on my cake. I'm placing a board at the bottom of the cake to keep my chevron aligned, and I start from the center of the cake working out laying the zigzag pattern all the way around. I know that I want this pattern to repeat, so once I have the first green line near the bottom, I decide where I want the pattern to begin again, and I use a piece of board to measure the height, and I lay the pattern in the exact same way. Now I can move on and add my brown lines. So again, I use my chevron template or stencil to help me figure out the angles, cut all the strips, and then I add that brown chevron pattern above the green. And then finally, I do the same with my orange, creating that chevron pattern again on top of the brown. Your teepee can have any pattern that you want. And if you do make it with a different pattern, please put up a picture and tag me on Instagram, and maybe you'll be in our Fan Love Friday. He's in a rush. He's going camping.
Coming back from camping.
That was funny. I want to add a little bit more detail to the panels of yellow fondant that are holding the dowels onto the cake. So I'm going to use my overstitch tool. It's one of my favorite tools. I actually thoroughly enjoy using it. It makes me nervous though, because I do want the stitching to be straight. So I run that carefully up either side of my yellow thin panels on either side of the dowel on all 4 corners of the cake. I love my overstitch tool because it's just one tool and it's really simple, but it adds so much texture and detail to a cake. But I love this tool. And for the first time ever, it is available at howtocakeit.com. For an extra detail along the center seam at the top, I use 5 of my brown strips and I just cut them to a point on either side. And then I create a little pattern at the top. It's time to address the open door. I'm gonna roll out some yellow fondant, cut 2 bands, and then I'm gonna roll it up with the help of a ruler around a dowel. I wanna leave some of the fondant unrolled, so flat on my board, and I'm going to chill both of these in the fridge. Once they're firm, I trim them up along the dowel. I trim the bottom on a bit of an angle, and then I use clear piping gel to help me glue it along the side of the door. I also wanna trim the top along the door. I need to address the top of my cake because at this point there's just 2 dowels crisscrossing and I really want 3. So I take the extra piece of dowel that I had originally trimmed off one of the dowels and I just insert it into the middle of the cake. Okay guys, it's time to solve this argument. What do you think about camping? Leave a comment below. Is it hashtag Y&O if you're with Yolanda and Orhan, and hashtag Cody if you're with Cody? So I expect to see, Cody's just gonna go on the video and hashtag himself 50,000 times. You know we can see if it's you, right? You're aware. Now I'm gonna make a bit of rope from fondant and I'm gonna use that at the top of my TeePee. I used my clay extruder and then I used the like rope faceplate. It looks like almost like a 3-leafed clover.
Okay.
Then what you do to make it look like a rope is you twist it. So you roll one side toward you and one side away from you and it twists and it looks like a rope. It will look like what holds it all together, plus it will hide the seam. Trim it at the back, and now this is a sturdy TeePee. This is the kind of TeePee I dig. You know what I mean? So let's dig into it. I'm gonna chill out in my cake TeePee until next Tuesday, but in the meantime, you can check out Joni's Winnie the Pooh cake over on How to Cake It Step by Step. Just click here. And don't forget about Camp Cake. Happy camping, happy indoor baking camp. Hashtag Y&O.
Yes, perfect.